IEEE standard for Verilog hardware description language. IEEE 1364 2005. Content. Overview. Scope. Conventions used in this standard. Synthetic description. Use of color in the standard. Content of the standard. Duplicated clauses. Header file listings. Example. Prerequisite. Normative references. Lexical conventions. Lexical tokens, white space, comment, operators, numbers, integer constants, real constants, conversion. String variable declaration, string manipulation, special characteristics in strings, identifiers, keywords, and system names. Escaped identifiers, keywords, system tasks and functions, compiler directives. Attribute, examples, syntax. Data types, value set, net and variables, net declarations, variable declarations, vectors, specifying vectors, vector net accessibility. Strengths, charge strengths, drive strengths, implicit declarations, net types, while and trinet, while net, and tri-reg net. Try0 and try1 net, unreserved net, supply net. Regs, integer and real times in real times. Integers, reals, times, and real times. Operators and unreal numbers. Conversion. Arrays, net arrays, regular and variable arrays, and memories. Parameters, module parameters, local param, specify parameters, namespaces. Expressions, operators with real operands, operators precedence, using integer numbers in expressions, expression evaluation order, arithmetic operator, expression with legs and integers, relational operators, equality operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, reduction operators, shift operators, conditional operators, and concatenations. Operands, vector bit select and part select addressing, array and memory addressing, and strings, minimum, typical, and maximum delay expressions, expression bit lengths, rules for expression bit lengths, example of expression bit lengths problem, examples of self-determined expressions, signed expressions, rules for expression types, steps for evaluating an expressions, steps for evaluating an assignment, handling X and G in signed expressions, assignment and truncation. Assignment, continuous assignment, the net declaration assignment, the continuous assignment statement, and delays. Strength, and procedural assignment, variable declaration assignment, and variable declaration syntax. Gate and switch level modeling. Gate and switch declaration syntax. The gate type specification and drive strength specification and delay specification and primitive instance identifier, the range specification and primitive instance connection list. And, NAND, NOR, OR, exclusive OR, and exclusive NOR gates, buff and NOT gates, buff if 1, buff if 0, not if 1, and not if 0 gate. Most switches, bidirectional path switches, CMOS switches, pull up and pull down sources. Logic strength modeling, strengths and values of combined signals, and combined signals of unambiguous strengths. Ambiguous strengths, sources and combinations, ambiguous strength signals, and unambiguous signals. Wide logic net types. Strength reduction by non-transitive devices and strength reduction by resistive devices. Strengths of net types. Tree 0 and Tree 1 net strengths. Tree lag strength. Supply 0 and Supply 1 null strengths. The gate and net delays. Mean, typical, max delays. Tri-leg net charge decay. User-defined primitive UDPs. UDP definition, UDP header, UDP port declaration, sequential UDP initial statement, UDP state table, G values in UDP, and summary of symbols. Combinational UDPs and level-sensitive sequential UDPs and edge-sensitive sequential UDPs. Sequential UDP initialization, UDP instances, mixing level-sensitive and edge-sensitive descriptions, level-sensitive dominance. 9. Behavior modeling, behavior model overview, procedure assignment, blocking procedure assignment, and the non-blocking procedure assignment. The procedure continuous assignment and the assign and deassign procedure assignment. Force and release procedure assignment. The conditional statement, if-else if construct. Case statement. Case statement with do not care, don't cares, as constant expression in case statement. Looping statement. The procedure timing controller, delay controller, event controller, named event or operator, implicit event expression list, and level-sensitive event controller, intrust assignment timing controller. Block assignment, sequential block and parallel block and block names and start and finish times. Structured procedure, initial construct and average construct. Tasks and functions. Distinct between tasks and functions, task and task enabling, task declaration, task enabling and argument passing, the task memory manager concurrent activation, disabling of named blocks and tasks, function and function calling, the function declaration, returning a value from a function, calling a function, function rules, and use of constant functions. The scheduling semantics, execution of a model, event simulation, the stratified event queue, Verilog simulation reference model, determinism, non-determinism, race conditions, scheduling implication of assignment, continuous assignment, procedure continuous assignment, blocking assignment, non-blocking assignment, switch transistor processing, port connections and functions and tasks. Hierarchical structure, modules, top-level modules, module instantiation, overriding module parameters values, depth from statement, module instance parameters value assignment, parameter dependence. Ports, port definition, list of ports, port declarations, list of port declarations, connecting module instance port by ordered list, connecting module instance ports by name, real numbers in port connections, connecting dissimilar ports, and port connections rules, net types and resulting from dissimilar port connections, connecting signed values via ports. As generate construct, loop generate construct, conditional generate construct, and external names for unnamed generate blocks. Hierarchy names, abording name referencing, scope rules, elaboration, orders of elaboration, or resolution of hierarchical names. The configuring the content of design, introduction, library notation, basic configuration element, libraries, specify libraries, the library map file, using multiple library map files as mapping sources to libraries, the configuration, basic configuration syntax, hierarchical configuration, and using libraries and configs, pre-compiling in a single path use model, elaboration time compiling in a single path use model, pre-compiling using a separate compilation tool, command line consideration, configuration example. The configuration example is this default configuration from library map file, using default clause, using cell clause, using instance clause, using hierarchical config. Displaying library binding information, library mapping examples, using the command line to control the library searching, file path specification example, resolving the multiple path specification. Specify block declaration, module path declarations, module path restrictions, simple module paths, edge-sensitive paths, state-dependent paths, full connection and parallel connection with, declaring multiple module paths in a single statement, module path plurality, assigning delays to a module path, specify transition delays on a module path, specifying X transition delays, delay selection, mixing module path delays and distributed delays, driving wired logic, detailed control of parse filtering behavior, specify block control of parse limit values, global control of parse limit values, SDF annotation of parse limit values, detailed parse control capabilities. The timing checks. Overview. Timing checks using a stability window. Setup, hold, removal, discovery, let RAM. The timing checks for clock and control signals. Skew, time skew, full skew with period, no change. Edge control specifier. Notifiers. User-defined response is timing violation. Requirement for accurate simulation. Conditions in negative timing checks and notifiers in negative timing checks. The options. Behavior. The enabling timing checks with the conditioned event. Vector signals in timing checks, negative time checks. Aspect annotation using the standard delay format SDF. The SDF annotators. Mapping of the SDF construct to Verilog and mapping of the SDF delay construct to Verilog declarations. Mapping of SDF timing check construct to Verilog. SDF annotation of spec params. SDF annotation interconnect delays. Multiple annotation, multiple SDF files, parse limit annotation, SDF to Verilog delay value mapping. System tasks and functions. Display system tasks. The display and write tasks, strobe the monitoring, continuous monitoring. The file input, output, system, task, and functions. The opening and closing files, file output system tasks, formatting data to a string, reading data from a file, and file positioning, flushing output, I/O error status, detecting EOF, loading memory data from a file, loading timing data from an SDF file. Timescale and system tasks, print timescale, time format, simulation control system tasks, finish, stop, programmable logic array, PLA modeling system tasks, array types, array logic types, and logic array personality declaration and loading, logic array personality formats, and stochastic analysis tasks, Q initialize, Q add, Q remove, Q full, Q exam, status codes, simulation time system functions, time as time, real time, and conversion functions, probabilistic distribution function, random function, dist function, algorithm for probabilistic distribution functions, command line input, test plugs are string, value plugs are user string and variable, math functions, integer math functions, real math functions, the value change dump file, VCD files, creating a 4-state VCD file, specifying name of the dump file, specifying variables to be dumped, dump bars, stop and resuming the dump off and dump on, generating task checkpoint, dump all, limiting size of dump file, dump limit, reading dump file during simulation, dump flush, format of 4-state VCD file, syntax of 4-state VCD file, format of variable values, description of keyword commands, the 4-state VCD file format example, creating extended VCD file, specify dump file name and port to be dump port, stop and resuming the dump down porch off, and down porch zone. Generating on checkpoint. The down porch or limiting size of the file, down porch limit. Reading file and file during simulation, down porch flush. Description of a keyword command. General rules for extended VC system tasks. The format extended VC file, syntax of extended VC file, extended VC node information, value changes, extended VCD file format example. 19. Compiler directive, self-defined and self-defined. Default net type, define and undefined, define and define, if def, else if, and if then if, include, resettle, line, timescale, unconnected drive and no unconnected drive, programmer, standard programmers. Begin, keywords and keywords. Programming language interface PLI overview. PLI purpose and history. User-defined system task functions name. User-defined system task function types. Overriding built-in system task functions name. And user-supplied PLI applications, PLI mechanisms, and user-defined task function argument and PLI inclusive files. PLI TF ACC interface mechanism. Using ACC routines, using ACC routine definitions, using TF routines definitions. So using Verilog procedure interface VPI routines. VPI system tasks and functions, size TF VPI application routine, compiler TF VIP application routines, core TF VPI application routine, argument to size TF, compile TF, and core TF application routines. VPI mechanism, VPI callbacks, VPI call access to Verilog HDL object and assimilation object. Error handling, function availability, traversing expressions. VPI object classifications, accessing object relationship and properties, object type properties, and file line and properties. Delays and values, object protection properties. List of VPI routines by functional categories. Key to data model, programs, diagrams. Diagram key for object and classes. Diagram key for accessing properties. Diagram key for traversing relationships. Object data model and diagrams. Module, instance arrays, scope, IO declaration, ports, nets and net arrays, rag and rag arrays, and variables. Memory, object ranging, named event, parameter and spec parameter, primitive, primterm, and UDP, module path, path term, intermodule path, timing check, task function declaration, task function call, frames, delay terminals, net drivers and loads, rag drivers and loads, continuous assignment, simple expressions, process block statement, event statement, assignment, delay control, event control, repeat control, while repeat wait, for forever, if else, case, assignment statement, the assignment, force, release, disable, callback, time queue, and active format, as attribute, and iterator, and generate. The VIP routine definitions. The VIP check error, compile object, control flush, free object, get CB, callback info, get data, get alias, get string, sys TF info, ls, and time, and user data, value, Verilog info, and VIP handle. VIP handle by index, by multi-index, name, and multi. VPI iterate, VPI MCD close, flush H, name, open printf, and vprintf. VPI printf, put data, put delays, user data, values. Register CB, simulation, event callbacks, time callbacks, simulate action or feature callbacks. VPI register TF, system task or function callbacks, initializing VPI system task function callbacks. registering multiple system tasks and functions. VPI remove callback, CB, and VIP scan, VIP printf. Protected envelopes. General, processing protected envelopes, encryption, decryption, protect the programmer directives, programmer keywords. Begin and begin protected and protected author info, encryption agent info, encoding data key owner, data method, data key name, data public key, decrypt key, and block, digest key owner, key method, key name, and digest public key. Digest discrete key, digest method, digest block, and key owner, key method, key name, key public key, and key block, and descriptor license, runtime license, comment, and reset viewport. Annex A, normative formal syntax definition. Source text, library source text, value source text, module parameters and inputs, and module items, and configuration source text. Declarations, declaration type, data types, lists, assignments, ranges, functional declarations, task declarations, block item declarations. Primitive instances, primitive instantiation instances, primitive strength, terminals, primitive get and switch types, module instantiation and generate construct, module instantiation and generate construct, UDP declaration and instantiation, UDP declaration, ports, body, instantiation. Behavior statement, continuous assignment statement, procedure blocking assignment, and pattern and sequential blocks and statement, timing control statement, conditional statement, case statement, looping statement, and task enable statement. Specify section, specify block declaration, path declaration, and block terminals, and path delays and timing, system timing checks. Expressions, concatenations, function calls, expressions, primaries, expression left side values, and operators, numbers and strings. General, attribute, comment, identifiers, white space. Annex B, normative, list of keywords. Annex C, informative, system task and function, count drivers, get patterns, input, key and no key, number key, it's a list, log and no log, no key, list set, list count and list value, save, restart and save, scale scope, snow scope, and show variables in the SRAM memb and SRAM memh. Annex D, informative, compiler directives, default decay time, default tree lag strength, delay mode distributed, delay mode path, delay unit, module unit, delay mode 0. Normative, acc underscore user.h, value user h, duplicate. VPI users. Annex H, informative, encryption and description flow, tool vendor secret key encryption system, encryption input. And H is encryption output, an IP author secret key encryption system, encryption input and output, digital envelopes, encryption input and output. Annex A, informative, bibliography, index. Yeah, thank you for your time. Oh, sorry. There is a figure. Okay. Thank you for your time. See you next time. There is a listing of the figures and tables. Thank you again.